Hi, welcome to my review of Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, directed by Christopher McQuarrie, an action flick that centers on IMF agent Ethan Hunt as he is forced to go rogue after the IMF has been shut down in the midst of the emergence of a new terrorist organization known as the Syndicate. So it's been a while since I've done one of these movie reviews, mainly because, one, I have been busy, and two, there has been nothing coming out. If you want my opinion on how 2015 has been so far, because we've actually crossed the midsection here, it's been kind of boring. During this time last year, I could have already have done a top 10 list, and I would have been incredibly happy with what I had in that list, because all those films were great. Last summer I thought was excellent. This summer, this year, it's been bland, and there's only 3 films that are going to be in my top 10 list so far, and those are It Follows, Inside Out, and of course Mad Max Fury Road. Everything else has been just good to just outright forgettable. And keep in mind that I haven't even gone out of my way to see any of the quote bad movies, so what does that tell you? Maybe I've become jaded, but honestly, I don't think 2015 has been a great year. So the question is, does Rogue Nation deliver on all the things that the summer has lacked? And the short answer is almost, but not quite. But before I start talking about Rogue Nation, I do want to say this. I'm not a fan of the Mission Impossible series. It's not because I dislike the series. It's because I've never actually sat down and watched the series. Out of all of them, I've only seen the third one, directed by J.J. Abrams, and from what I remember enjoying it, but that was like a really long time ago, and I was like 14, so I don't remember much of it. As for Ghost Protocol, I've seen scenes here and there on HBO, but I've never actually sat down and watched it in full, but what I did see, I did like. So now we have Rogue Nation, and what sets this film apart from a lot of these summer blockbusters that we see every single year is its use of practical effects and stunts. If you're somebody who has seen my videos before, then you would know that I am somebody who is not a fan of an abundance of CGI, especially when it's not necessary, when you can do something practical. Now, I do realize that there is a lot of work that goes into creating visual effects, but from a director's point of view, I think that's just kind of lazy, just to have a bunch of actors interact with one another on stage, surrounded by a green screen. I think that's just kind of lazy. 2 great examples, George Lucas and Peter Jackson. Anyway, I digress. In terms of spectacle, Rogue Nation is quite extraordinary. There are some incredible set pieces in this film. For instance, there's the opening scene where Tom Cruise, and you've all seen it in the trailers, where he's trying to hold on to the plane as it's taking off, and that was actually Tom Cruise, and it was all done practically. Although I do think the scene was a little too short-lived, I thought it was pretty awesome. And there's this one sequence, and it might be my favorite in the entire film, where Tom Cruise is at an opera in Vienna, and he's trying to stop the assassination of somebody. And so meanwhile, you have opera music playing while all that's happening. Not only that, but the scene lends itself to some really cool weaponry. There's also this one scene that takes place underwater, which is easily the most intense scene in the entire film. And it's followed by a chase sequence involving all these motorbikes. And I thought that sequence was really well filmed by the always brilliant Robert Elswit. However, unfortunately, everything outside of the spectacle is a little lacking. Tom Cruise is a great actor and can be an incredible one if you give him the right material. If you've ever seen Magnolia, the Paul Thomas Anderson film, he gives a performance that I believe is purely hypnotic. And he plays a character that is, albeit he is a huge misogynist, he just has a shit ton of charisma. Unfortunately, this film doesn't really utilize Tom Cruise all too well outside of his stunt work. And outside of that one sequence, the underwater sequence, I found it really hard to actually care for the Tom Cruise character, Ethan Hunt, because he just has 0 charisma. He's kind of boring. And another problem that I have with this film is that it's very much driven by exposition. And the reason why that's a problem is because it makes the dialogue very, very dry. It doesn't really have a whole lot of flavor, unfortunately. And so when you have characters who are communicating with one another. That's all it is, essentially. It's just like, okay, explaining what we're going to do next, what's going on, set piece. Explaining what we're going to do next, set piece. There's really not a whole lot of room for any kind of characterization. Now, there is Simon Pegg who comes in to provide some comedic relief to the film, but a lot of the stuff that he's given just didn't really quite work for me. It was just kind of chuckle-worthy at best. Though I will note that there were two cackling hyenas sitting behind me that would disagree. They were basically laughing at every single thing in the film. Even if shit wasn't even funny, they'd just start laughing. There's even this one scene, and I don't remember what it was, but I think it involved Simon Pegg, and I think he just said something. And one of them just starts laughing like the Joker. And I was just like, okay, that was kind of funny, but shit, was it that funny? No, I don't think it was. Okay, tone it down a notch. But what can I say? At least they were having a good time, you know? Getting back to the characters, I never really quite felt a genuine sense of attachment to any of them. Just never quite got to that point. And as for the villain, he was okay, but he kind of got on my nerves towards the end because he just did like a Marlon Brando impression. You know, he just kind of ran around the whole film talking like this. That shit got old. Overall, Rogue Nation is among the better films to have been released in the summer of 2015. Even though that might not be saying much, I do think it is among the better ones. If you're somebody who's looking for some great spectacle, impressive spectacle at that, then you're going to get what you want. But if you're somebody who's looking for something that goes a little deeper than the average summer movie flick, you're not going to get that. As for my rating, I'm going to give Mission Impossible Rogue Nation a good 3.5 out of 5. And if you're somebody who has seen this film, let me know your thoughts on it. And as always, I'm Colin Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.